The film begins with a young woman, Becky, being interrogated by authorities about a recent incident in the woods. However, she feigns memory loss. We then travel back in time 2 weeks before the questioning. Becky's dad throws her a curveball by picking her up early from school, whisking her away on a unique weekend getaway. Across town, a conveyance vehicle carries 5 convicts to a new location. 4 of them are part of a faction led by Dominic, a man harboring white supremacist ideals. The remaining inmates are known as Apex, Cole, and Hammond. During the journey, Dominic and his cohorts exchange knowing glances. Suddenly, Apex resorts to violence, wrapping his hands around the throat of the unaffiliated prisoner, causing him to lose consciousness. Dominic capitalizes on this situation, alerting the driver to bring the vehicle to a halt. By chance, Becky and her dad pull up to a gas station at the same time. A news report blares about 4 inmates escaping from a prison transport vehicle, but Becky ignores it, surreptitiously slipping some candy into her pocket. A nearby family, all dressed in identical outfits, draws her attention. A wave of grief washes over her, and she seeks a secluded corner to watch an old video of her late mother, who succumbed to cancer a year ago. Once back on the road, Becky throws a fit upon realizing their destination is the family lake house. It held deep meaning for her mother, and Becky believed her father was determined to sell it after her passing. However, to her surprise, her father reveals a change of heart regarding the sale, instantly calming Becky down. She showers her dog, Diego, with affection, but her joy is short-lived as she spots another car pulling in. This, as it turns out, belongs to her father's new significant other, Kayla, and her son Ty. They greet Becky warmly, but she remains frosty while their dog, Dora, approaches for a friendly introduction. To ease the tension, the father encourages Becky to retrieve their other dog, Diego. Meanwhile, the escaped convicts, Dominic and Apex, are now disguised as police officers. They pull over an unsuspecting driver with the intention of stealing his car. As the driver exits the vehicle, Dominic brutally attacks him with fatal consequences, while the man's horrified children witness the scene from the back seat. Back at the lake house, Becky's refusal to accept Kayla and her son results in a sullen silence throughout dinner. Finally, her father attempts to break the ice by acknowledging the past year's hardships, but emphasizing the need to move forward. It's at this point he announces his upcoming marriage to Kayla. Predictably, Becky doesn't react well. Her father pursues her, but the heartbroken Becky storms off into the woods with her loyal companion, Diego, by her side. In a surge of anger, Becky storms into her childhood playhouse in the woods and trashes the place. Her rage subsides upon seeing a painting her mother made. A wave of nostalgia washes over her, transporting her back to a tender moment where she sang to her ailing mother in the hospital. Meanwhile, back at the lake house, Kayla is clearing the table when the doorbell rings. Hoping to diffuse the tension with Becky, she answers the door. Jeff, upon returning, finds Kayla ushering a stranger inside. The man, none other than Dominic, spins a yarn about searching for a lost dog. Deep in the woods, rummaging through her old locker, Becky stumbles upon a curious key. Intrigued, she pockets it for later exploration. Back at the house, Dominic sets his sights on Dora, the dog. He spews hateful rhetoric about the evils of mixed breeds, claiming they lose their edge and predatory instincts. Jeff, understandably upset by this diatribe, politely asks the man to leave. The situation takes a violent turn when Apex steps forward, choking Jeff. Following Dominic's orders, he stalks Kayla, who seeks refuge in a corner of a bedroom. Per Dominic's instructions, Apex destroys her phone to prevent her from calling for help. However, a flicker of humanity compels him to spare their lives. He instructs Kayla to flee into the woods, and she scurries off, Dora faithfully at her side. Meanwhile, hidden within the woods, Becky overhears the menacing voices of Cole and Hammond. Their paths collide with Kayla, and they demand to know her business. The gullible Ty blurts out that they're searching for Becky, but Kayla, thinking fast, lies and claims it's their dog's name. Witnessing the chilling act of Cole shooting Dora in cold blood, Becky steels her nerves and sets out alone, leaving Diego behind in the playhouse. She stealthily makes her way back to the lake house, where she discreetly observes her father, Kayla, and Ty being held captive in the living room. One of the thugs reports eliminating the family's dog, whom they mistakenly believe to be Becky. Dominic declares his intention to retrieve his objective and depart. Kayla, however, remains unconvinced, fearing they'll be silenced for having witnessed their faces. Dominic descends into the basement, searching for a specific item within a metal container. Frustration mounts as he discovers it empty. Meanwhile, Becky gains entry through her bedroom window. Unfortunately, the basement ladder exits right into her room, and Dominic is on his way up. In a surge of panic, Becky grabs her walkie-talkie before Dominic spots her. Forced into silence, she conceals herself beneath the window as Dominic casts a suspicious glance around the room. He retrieves Becky's backpack, presenting it to her father. The backpack alone serves as enough evidence for him to deduce the presence of a young girl, and that Becky is not the dog's name, but their daughter's. He reveals his pursuit of a key bearing a specific symbol, but none of them are aware of this key. With no answers forthcoming, Dominic turns his attention to Becky, the the last remaining person to question. Dominic throws his weight around, demanding to know Becky's whereabouts. Jeff, in a desperate attempt to protect his daughter, concocts a lie, claiming Becky's in Atlanta with her mother. Dominic scoffs at this obvious fabrication, noting Becky's phone nestled in her backpack. Unfazed, Jeff sticks to his story. Dominic, unimpressed by Jeff's defiance, rewards his dishonesty with a bullet to Kayla's leg. The horrifying scene, punctuated by Kayla's scream, compels Becky to break her silence. Feigning distance, she transmits a message through the walkie-talkie, bluffing about reaching a neighbor's house and calling the police. Dominic, convinced it's a child's ploy, dismisses the notion of the signal traveling that far. Becky remains hidden on the property. Dominic and Apex escort Jeff out for a chat, ominously declaring today the day Becky proves her love. Dominic resorts to threats, barking orders through the walkie-talkie. He leverages Jeff's safety, promising torture unless Becky surrenders the contents of the mysterious tin box in the basement. Becky, intimidated, denies possessing the key, a detail Dominic never revealed. This inadvertent slip exposes Becky's knowledge of the key's location. To underscore his seriousness, Dominic grouses a fire poker, heating it until it glows, and presses it into Jeff's cheek while Becky listens in horror. He offers Jeff a chance to speak, hoping for a plea directed at Becky. However, Jeff defies expectations, urging Becky to run for her life. Dominic, enraged by Jeff's defiance, plunges the fire poker into Jeff's stomach. Witnessing this brutality, Becky surrenders, retrieving the key from the playhouse. Just as she returns, Jeff, in a surge of adrenaline, throws off his restraints and flees into the woods. He encounters Becky and expresses his love, only to be cut down by Dominic's bullet. Grief and fury welling up inside her, Becky grabs the key and plunges it into Dominic's eye before bolting away. Dominic stumbles back into the house, his eye a gruesome sight. He barks orders at Hammond to remove it, but the scissors prove useless. Furious at Hammond's fumbling, Dominic grabs a knife and deals with the problem himself. Wasting no breath, he commands his men to scour the woods for Becky. Meanwhile, by the lake, Becky struggles with overwhelming emotions. A sudden crackle from the walkie-talkie shatters the silence. It's Cole, his voice laced with mockery, echoing from the trees. Becky flees towards the familiar haven of her playhouse, finding comfort in Diego's loyal presence. Cole edges closer, but a flicker of fear betrays him when he spots Diego. Thankfully, he's unarmed at this moment. Cole attempts to manipulate Becky, offering empty promises of safety for her and her family in exchange for the key. However, the mention of her stepmom only strengthens Becky's resolve to hold on to the precious memories of her mother. Refusing to be intimidated, she transforms into a determined fighter, grabbing a broken ruler as her makeshift weapon. Emerging from the playhouse roof, a plan forms in her mind. To distract Cole, Becky throws a coin into the woods. As he investigates, she uses a hidden zip line to descend silently behind him. With a decisive move, Becky uses the broken ruler to overpower Cole, effectively neutralizing the threat. Back inside the house, Apex tends to Kayla's gunshot wound. Kayla seizes the opportunity to plead with him, sensing a flicker of humanity beneath his gruff exterior. Before she can elaborate, Dominic calls for Apex. In a menacing display of dominance, Dominic forces Apex to hold a gun to his own chest. He reminds Apex of their 9 years spent in prison together, years during which Dominic meticulously planned this operation. Dominic threatens to end his own life if he suspects even a hint of betrayal from Apex. Guilt-stricken, Apex reaffirms his loyalty. Meanwhile, Becky returns to the lake house undetected, and discreetly throws a walkie-talkie onto the porch for Dominic to find. In a surprisingly composed voice, she delivers a veiled threat, hinting at her newfound resourcefulness. Dominic, unnerved by her message, asks Kayla to reason with Becky and convince her to surrender. Kayla, however, is honest about her strained relationship with Becky and doubts her ability to persuade the young girl. Desperate, Dominic sends his remaining men after Becky. While Becky meticulously sets a trap by the lake, Hammond stumbles upon Cole's body, a horrifying discovery that sends him into a panic. Moments later, Becky emerges, taunting Hammond into a chase. She lures him onto the dock where he loses his footing on a hidden fishing line. A makeshift trap, fashioned with sharp nails protruding from a plank, Becky delivers a blow with another rigged plank, but Hammond manages to wrest control of the weapon. A struggle ensues, with Hammond losing his balance and falling into the water. He cries out, revealing his inability to swim. The situation escalates as Becky confronts Apex, the largest and most formidable of the remaining convicts. Diego attempts to intervene, but Apex easily knocks him unconscious. Becky rushes to her dog's side, fear etched on her face. Apex effortlessly scoops Becky off the ground, but underestimates her will to fight back. A fierce struggle ensues, culminating in Apex resorting to a chokeslam. Hesitation flickers across Apex's face. He lowers his grip, seemingly unable to inflict further harm. He warns Becky that violence leaves a lasting scar, that there's still time to choose a better path. With newfound resolve, he walks away, defying Dominic's orders. Miraculously, Diego stirs, proving he's not seriously injured. Grief washes over Becky as she reaches her father's side. She takes a moment to mourn, whispering apologies before retrieving his car keys. Determined to save Kayla and Ty, she approaches the lake house. A quick glance through the window reveals them unharmed. Just as she prepares to signal them, Dominic enters the room. Kayla diverts his attention, allowing Becky to slip away unnoticed. Confusion clouds Kayla's face. She demands Dominic's motives. He spouts white supremacist rhetoric, claiming the key holds the power to purify his cause. Disgusted, Kayla calls him a fool. Their argument escalates, interrupted only by a blaring car alarm. Dominic rushes to investigate, while Kayla hobbles to the kitchen and uses a knife to free herself and Ty. Meanwhile, in the parking lot, Dominic mistakes a returning car for Apex. He lunges, attempting to open a door. A fierce struggle ensues, but Dominic manages to slam the door shut. Convinced Becky is inside, he draws his gun, aiming to fire. However, Becky is nowhere to be found. An unexpected twist reveals her hiding in another car entirely. In a desperate escape attempt, Becky throws the car into gear and crashes into Dominic. However, she loses control and slams into a tree, her lack of driving experience betraying her. Thankfully, the car's safety features activate, automatically summoning help. Shaken but unharmed, Becky gathers herself and enters the garage, grabbing a container of gasoline. Dominic, frantically searching for her, stumbles upon Becky singing near a fire pit. Surprisingly, instead of attacking her immediately, Dominic acknowledges Becky's cunning and ruthlessness. He offers a twisted deal: join his cause and become his ward. Unsurprisingly, Becky rejects his offer. In a daring move, Becky aims a makeshift flamethrower, a Nerf gun filled with gasoline, at Dominic. Enraged and injured, Dominic lunges at Becky, snatching the key before aiming his gun. Just as he prepares to fire, Apex intervenes. Their tense standoff ends tragically with Dominic, consumed by rage, shooting Apex. He turns his weapon on Becky, but she nimbly dodges his attack. Seeking refuge in the garage, Becky's mind races. She spots the lawnmower and uses it to overpower Dominic in a desperate act of self-defense. Exhausted and traumatized, she encounters Apex, who apologizes for abandoning her to face Dominic alone. However, Becky, consumed by grief and rage, shoots him as well. Left alone, Becky stares at the key, its purpose a mystery. Kayla and Ty find her by the barn, her expression vacant. As police sirens wail in the distance, they comfort her. The scene cuts back to the opening scene, where a bewildered Becky feigns ignorance during police questioning. A police officer voices concern about the underlying violence Becky seems capable of. The movie concludes on this unsettling note. What did you think of Becky's story? Discuss in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video.